main specialty is drawing, which is why today I wanted to run a workshop on a very particular kind of drawing, which is tracing. So you should have all of your equipment laid out. So here we've got some paper clips. We've got a sheet of tracing paper. So underneath the tracing paper, there should be a sheet of A2 white paper as backing. And then we've got a selection of different coloured felt tip pens and marker pens. Again, it doesn't matter which colours you've got, as long as you've just got a nice selection of maybe 5 or 6. And then we've got our images that we're going to be using for tracing. So there should be a resource pack provided, or you can use your own images as well if you've got any to hand. Okay, so if we put those to one side and let's begin. And so the first thing that we're going to do is we're just going to fix our tracing paper to our white paper. There we go. So all that gives us is a nice hinge to work with so that you can peel back the tracing paper and put the images that you want to underneath. Right, so from the image pack, I'm going to start with one particular image, but if you've got another one that you prefer to work with, then please go ahead. I'm going to start with the image of this woman. Just pop the other images to another side. Again, you might have another image that you're working with, or you can use the exact same one and follow along as we work. So we're going to pop this image on the left-hand side of our paper, underneath the tracing paper. And so now we're going to do our first tracing. But because tracing is a form of drawing, what I find is that the first drawing you do is always a bit stiff because you haven't really worked yourself up enough, or you're not flexible enough in the wrist. So we're going to try something a little bit different to start with. So we're actually going to get 2 felt tip pens, and we're going to hold them at the same time, just to liven things up a little bit. So I recommend getting 2 contrasting colours and just holding them in your palm just like that, so that the tips are at the same level, so you'll be able to draw with it. And what this will do is that this will just make tracing a little bit different for what we want to do, and it'll take some of the fussiness out of it, essentially. So I image that, and so I'm going to start by just drawing down the side of this woman's head. So you can draw along with me. And what you'll notice is that it's very hard to keep track of what's underneath. So you just let both lines go wherever you want. And what it does is that it stops you being too precious about being accurate about the image that you're trying to trace, because you'll try and focus on one line and then you'll get lost in the other. So I've gone for a red and a blue. You might have 2 other different colours, or if you don't have any colours to handle, you can just use 2 black pens. And what I find, this technique's a really nice way just to loosen you up and to make some marks that you can't really control in the same way that you would with just a single felt tip. So now I've gone around the edge of the face and the fingers. Let's go in and do some of the eyes as well. And if it ends up looking googly-eyed, then that's fine. There really isn't a right or a wrong answer when it comes to tracing. I'm going to do the eyebrows now. and you'll find yourself going in to try and do all of the little strands of hair. And now I think we're going to go in for the nose. And then the other eyebrow. If it makes you dizzy doing this, don't worry. It's hard not to be a little bit dizzy, because you're making two drawings at the same time. That's multitasking. And if you're coming to the edge of the image, you can always just snake off just to give the impression of the side of the head. And I think I'll get a little bit more of a hair in here. And you won't be able to see what it is that you've done until you finally remove the image, which I think is quite good, because again, it stops you getting too precious about what you're drawing, since you won't see it until the big reveal at the end. Okay, I think the last thing we need to do is the mouth. So making something like this, it's a lot like looking at something without 3D glasses, especially if you're using red and blue. You feel like you need to put some 3D specs on to look at it correctly. Okay, I think that's done. So remove the image underneath. And there we've got two drawings in two different colors on top of each other. And it just gives you something a little bit different to what you would do if you were going in just with a single pen trying to get all the details in. It just loosened things up a bit. So now we're going to try something different. So I'm going to take this picture. I'm not an expert in plants, so I can't tell you what plant this is. So I'm going to take this picture of some flora. Again, you might have something different, but I think something with a bit of pattern in it will make a nice contrast. So I'm going to put this underneath so that overlaps with the face. And so now, instead of making a line drawing, I'm going to go in with another colour pen. So a green felt tip in this instance, but you might have another colour. And I'm just going to move this over slightly, so there's just a bit more overlap, so that these leaves are going down the cheek and the side of the face. And so we're going to try two different drawing approaches now. So first, we're just going to start colouring these leaves in. So this is the easy bit. This is the colouring in bit. So you can relax. You just made two drawings at once. Now you can do some colouring in.
Jackson, as someone that absolutely adores plants, I just want to let you know that this one is called a monstera plant.
Ah, okay. I thought it might have been a cheese plant. And the reason that I don't know is because I'm awful at keeping plants. So I've had to stop myself from buying them, because it's for the plant's benefit that I stop keeping house plants. So again, there's no right or wrong colour to use with this, because the benefit of tracing is that it takes all the hard work of trying to get a likeness into your drawings. It takes that hard work out of it, and it just makes it the process about design and putting elements in different places on the page. So it can take a lot of the labor out of it and make something that's more about line and design and colour. And I can tell you, I've tried every artistic medium you can think of, whether it's oil paint or charcoal. And I'm going to admit that felt tip pens remain the best artistic medium in the world. I'd happily spend all day with a box of felt tips and a bit of paper.
I believe you've got a really incredible selection in front of you, Jackson, of all the different colours.
Yes, yeah, no, when they're all together, it's almost like a bit like a makeup set. I got these off Amazon. Yeah, investing in some good quality felt tip pens is never a mistake.
And while Jackson's getting on with that colouring in, I'd just like to say a big hello to everyone joining us from Queen Mary Lavender's Ward. It's lovely to have you all with us live on a Thursday. And as you know, we absolutely love to do shout outs. So if you're joining us for a ward or unit today, let us know in the Q&A box and we will give you a big hello.
So I've done the leaves on this side of the face. So now I'm going to overlap it, but instead of colouring it in, I'm just going to start outlining the leaves. Just so we've got some different styles of drawing overlapping. Because again, this doesn't matter if the image doesn't make sense. It's just about playing with pattern and texture and colour. Again, that's the benefit of using tracing paper, is that you can overlap and overlay so many different kinds of imagery and drawings. And it's only when you take the imagery away that you'll see what it is that you've got.
So Jackson, we've got a question coming from Barbara who asks, are you colouring on top of the tracing paper?
Yes, yes. So the tracing paper is the top layer, and then underneath that, we've got the image, and underneath that is the paper. So the paper that's underneath, the white paper, that's so that we can visibly see what's on the tracing paper, because if it's just on, say, a wooden surface, then it gets, you're seeing the surface underneath through it, so it makes it harder to see your drawing. And so at the end of this as well, you'll keep your tracing paper together with your white paper as a backing, so that you could frame that, or or just keep it together so that you can always clearly see the drawing. Okay, so I finished outlining the leaves. So I'm going to take that drawing away. And then see what we're getting is that we're getting all these kind of silhouettes of shapes that we can colour in later and explore different patterns. But for now, I'm going to add in another figure. So I'm going to choose this girl with the big love balloon. And now I'm going to put her on the right-hand side of the paper. And then I'm going to go back to my two different coloured pens. Again, I've got a red and a blue. You might have two different ones. You might have a red and a black or something. And again, we're going to hold them side by side again, so that we can do a double drawing. And we're going to do exactly what we did before and trace the outline of the drawing. Now, I always think it's important just to begin with outlines, because you can always go back and fill other things in Whereas if you start, say, with the eyes or the mouth, then if you run out of time, you might not have enough to work with if you ever look at it again. And so if you focus on outlines, then you've got some big, bold shapes that you can always work with.
So we've got loads of people joining us today, Jackson. Lots of regulars from our usual units and wards that join us. Thank you so much. And some new people joining us for the workshop today as well. So I want to say deep breath here. Big hello to Johnson PQ and everyone joining us there. Hi to everyone at Ladywell unit in Lewisham. You always join us for our workshops and we really appreciate having you. Big hello to the ladies on Avocet ward in Ipswich Hospital who are having so much fun. Hi to everyone joining us from Ms. Moan's class at Monmouth School who are enjoying this drawing workshop in their lunch breaks. Big hello to everyone at John Elliott unit in Hollingworth and Moorside wards. Everyone's concentrating really, really well, Jackson. And a big hello, special hello to Sarah, who's joining us from Bahrain today, who says that she loves this method for creating a composition. So thanks so much, everyone, for joining us. And do let us know if you have any questions that you'd like to ask Jackson in the chat. Just one more big hello to do. Hi to everyone joining us from ES1 ward.
Now, probably the trickiest bit with this is going in to do the face. And my advice is just to let go and don't be afraid of making a bit of a mess. Because again, it's just the pattern of those two different colours side by side, which is what stands out. So it's not about how good you are at drawing. It's just creating a nice texture on the page. Okay, I think, oh no, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I've missed the little hole in the E just there. Cool, okay. Big reveal. Put your 3D glasses on. Don't worry, you don't need those. Okay, so now we've got a couple of big elements on the page. So now what I want to do is I want to bring these together to make more of a single image. So I'm going to go, first of all, I'm going to do a bit of colouring in. So I think this love definitely needs colouring in. I'm going to go in with the red, but you can use any colour you want. But again, I'm just going to colour in the shapes that have opened up here. So I'm not going to go over all of the lines. I'm just going to colour in these shapes that have opened up from the lines overlapping. So you're essentially creating a big colouring book for yourself, but using these abstract shapes that appear when the lines intersect.
So while everyone's getting on with some more colouring in, I've got quite a lot of hellos to do of people that I know will be watching back on demand. So big hello to Snowsfield's adolescent unit and Una and everyone who'll be joining us from there. Big hello to Fir Park School and Ms. Hislop and everyone that joins us from there who watches back on demand. Thank you so much. We love having you with us. And if you do have any questions for Jackson, now would be a fantastic time to put those into the chat. And just to let everyone know as well, we're about halfway through today's workshop today. So Jackson, you've chosen quite a poppy primary colour palette today, I guess, in terms of the colours that you've selected.
Yeah.
Is there a reason why you chose to use those colours?
I would say that it's easy to pick out contrasting colours. Not really thinking about what they're drawing. And so if you've got realistic colours, then you can get bogged down into trying to make something look like something. Whereas I think this approach is quite freeing, because you're just enjoying making marks and putting down colour, as opposed to worrying if it's the right kind of colour. And sometimes you just need something that's a bit bright, just to brighten things up. So I'm going to go back in now, and what I want to do is to bring these two images together. I want to fill this gap here and up here as well, just so they tie in together a bit more and don't feel like two separate images. So I'm going to go in with what was the plant again, Jen?
That plant is called a monstera.
I'm going to go in with the monstera again, and I'm going to go for a blue, and I'm going to just try tracing this again. Just going in for outlines, and don't worry about it overlapping your other drawings. This will make a nice texture. And because we've loosened up a bit, you can probably go quite quickly trying to fill this in. Again, that's filled in down there. And then I'm going to colour that in with another colour. So I'm going to go for yellow. Because again, once you've just got the outline, you can treat this just as its own abstract shape and not worry about how much it looks like a plant. You can just enjoy filling in a big block of colour.
So Jackson, not only are you kind of a fine artist who is, you know, incredibly skilled at drawing, and that's something that you're hugely interested in, you've actually got kind of a background in like graphic design as well. And I guess this seems like a really interesting way of being able to build compositions and put shapes together.
Yeah. So it's looking at drawing from the point of view of a designer rather than, say, a painter, which can take some of the pernickety-ness out of it, or, you know, all of the fretting about how realistic or lifelike something looks. For instance, I'm going to take this colour and I'm going to spill it over into this shape here. So again, it's not thinking about what's this pattern on this face. It's just letting the colours and the shapes spill over a bit so that they blend to make a broader picture and they feel a bit more whole. And so as this goes on, we're really going to overlap drawings and colours more and more and more, so that we lose a lot of this white space. So again, I want to spread out this foliage a little bit more. So I'm going to put some behind this drawing here. I'm going to start filling this in. So again, you can follow along with this, or if you've got another image that you'd like to add, by all means, you can use that as an alternative. I'm going to bring the drawing down to the edge of the luff. And then bring it down underneath, so in between where her arms are. And then I can probably get a little bit more in here. So I'm just going to put one little leaf in there. And this is the thing about using different images like this. You can move things around to wherever you want. So if you want to fancy going off piste and putting something somewhere else, then you're more than welcome to. You can just have a play with where you like elements to sit. So I'm going to put something up here. There still needs to be something there. And of course, a really nice thing about this is that you just let things slowly spread out rather than trying to fill the whole paper from the start. You can just let your drawing organically grow out from the center. So let's add something a bit different. I've got a nice picture of some birds on a branch here. I'm going to pop this under. I want to get that a bit closer to the top, so I'm just going to fold that paper back so it will fit up nice and snugly under. Okay, I'm going to get my blue felt tip and start tracing this bird. Again, I couldn't tell you what kind of a bird this is. And I'm going to get some of these branches in as well. Again, don't worry about things overlapping because we want them to overlap, because then you don't have to worry about things making sense, but just enjoy building up different layers of drawing. Little beacon. And then I'm going to get a few of these leaves in. So I've got that in there. And then now I'm going to move this down just to here. Because again, I feel like this could be a lot denser. To bring these two shapes together, this needs to be a lot busier than it currently is. So I'm going to put these birds down there. Again, random color. I'm going to go for a red. And the nice thing about these is that they're never actually, these kinds of drawings are never actually finished. Say if you try and do a painting of a landscape or a still life, then you kind of can judge when it's done. When it looks like the thing, then it's finished. Whereas you could keep adding to this, for another couple of hours once it's finished, or you might come back to it in a few days and go, do you know what, I'd like to add this photograph that I found. This would look good somewhere in the picture. Again, just outlining all of these little shapes and patterns, building things up.
Jackson, if you didn't want to kind of continue just using pen, what other materials could you bring into this?
So it's all about what the tracing paper can stand, because the colour shines quite nicely when you've got some white paper beneath it to let it shine. I think paint might warp the paper a bit, but what you can do, the benefit of having it in layers, is that there's nothing to stop you painting something underneath on the paper or cutting out some coloured paper to give it some backing. So it's quite, the layering of it is what makes it flexible to adding other mediums, but you've just got to be mindful that the tracing paper doesn't warp. Okay, I'm going to go back in and I'm going to, with a yellow this time, and just get this bird. Again, it doesn't matter what colour the bird is, we just want to have a bit of a shape at the top there. And this fella, and again, I'm just going to go around the white spaces that have opened up between the drawing and the drawing of the bird and the outline of the leaf. And might even go in here as well and get these leaves. Oh, I still think we could go a bit busier. Again, you might just find these little shapes open up that you might want to fill in with any colour that you like. Again, you can stop following the logic of the drawing and just deal with the shapes that you've got that are opening up. I might make this just a little bit busier once more and add in one more layer of this leaf. Again, just focusing on this area and making it nice and dense. So I'm going to go in with a blue. And at this point, you'll struggle to see the photograph underneath. But just do your best to keep your pen moving, and you can't go wrong. It's always looseness that people like in drawings.
And just to let everyone know that we've got 10 minutes left of today's workshop, but please feel free to continue working on your piece long after we are gone. As Jackson has mentioned, you know, it really doesn't matter kind of how far you want to take it to the edges of the paper, how long you want to keep building into this piece. And a reminder that we'd absolutely love to see them as well. So if you head to our website, hospital-rooms.com, you can upload those pieces to our online gallery, and you know that we absolutely love to see them. So I just want to say hello as well to Ward 2 Springfield, a University Hospital Tooting, who have joined us about halfway through the workshop today.
So now's the point where you might be looking at spaces that might need some attention. So what I'd quite like to do is to carry this pattern on over to here. Actually, I'm going to add a bit more yellow to some of these as well. Finding random little places to put some colour. And then I feel like we could fit in leaves. So I'm going to pop this upside down just to get a different shape. And then I'm going to go in with blue for this one. Quick tracing. And sometimes with black and white pictures, you can get the best result because you just focus on the silhouette to trace rather than getting bogged down in the detail. I'm going to take my yellow and just spread this colour over here. And again, you might even follow it round into other parts of the drawing because all of these lines have begun to intersect and open up these new shapes. So these were our fingers earlier, but now it's created this really strange shape where the fingers and the leaves have intersected. So now you might think we've got a nice splodge of red here, so you can make decisions on where you might want to put other bits of red. So maybe in this necklace down here, just so that you've got a nice balance of colours, because we've got a lot of green and yellow, but maybe we need a bit more red. And this is what I mean in that you can just carry on and keep adding to areas that you think need some attention. So I might give her a bit of a red eye. And maybe some of these sections might need a bit of red. Maybe even fill in some of these spaces down here. So in the end, you're just left with a really messy colouring book that you can just keep going back to keep filling in. So any little bits of white, you can make a call as to what colour to add. It doesn't need to make sense, it just needs to look nice against the other ones. A couple of leaves down here. Go with my blue.
Just to give everyone a time check, we've got about 5 minutes left of today's workshop.
So I'm hoping that you'll be a bit hooked on this and that a lot of you will be carrying on after the time's up. And it'd be interesting to see people that have used some of the other pictures in the pack provided and see some of the different results that we've got. Another bit of green. Also, with these big marker pens, you'll find the tracing paper takes the colour quite well. But if you're looking for maybe a darker colour, you're probably better off applying something to the paper underneath. And then I'm going to add just one little branch here, just to make something a bit unusual to the side of the face. Again, it doesn't have to make sense, or you can call it a tattoo. Some amateur tattooing. Maybe move it up a bit as well.
So Jackson, as we're kind of starting to wrap up the last couple of minutes, we've got another question come through from Barbara. And Barbara asks, can you just kind of give us a refresh again on the pens that you're using and recommend the ones that you're using? She's currently making do with oil pastels.
Okay, so I like to use a mixture of thin and thick felt tips and marker pens. So these I actually got from Sainsbury's, these double-ended ones, and they're quite good in that you've got a thin end and a thick one. But the thin-ended ones are really, really good for fine detail. And then these thicker ones I've got, they're a bit pricier, and I got these from Amazon. But these are essentially good for very rich colours that you want to you want rich cover in a very saturated colour on a surface. But as I said, it might, if you've only got, say, some thin fine liners to hand, there's nothing to stop you doing all the line work on one layer and then going in with, say, oil pastel or paint on the layer below. I just thought we'd stick to felt tips today, just so it's a bit more practical, so you're not getting too overwhelmed with different materials.
Amazing. So I think that really nicely wraps up our workshop today, Jackson. Do you have any kind of final tips that you'd like to share with us or end your workshop on today?
I would just say keep it going. So you might, if you've enjoyed this, you might find yourself finding some images that you'd like to trace again in the future. You know, if you've got access to a smartphone, there's nothing to stop you, you know, screenshotting something. And you can always find other surfaces. If you don't have tracing paper to hand, there's nothing to stop you getting, say, a sheet of A4, putting it over a phone or a tablet, and the light from that will allow you to trace it. And just see them as something to be worked as, so that you can really overlap different areas to get some quite unusual patterns. So I hope everyone has enjoyed it and will hopefully carry on pursuing it as a technique.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Jackson, on behalf of the whole Hospital Rooms team, for such a great and interesting workshop today. I know that I've certainly learned some really good tips about placement and design and kind of using very limited colour palette. And as I said, we can't wait to see what everyone's created. So please do upload those to our gallery. Thanks to everyone that's let us know where you've been joining us from today. It's always wonderful to have you all with us live on a Thursday and feel like we are together. So it's now time to launch our end of workshop poll. If you could please indicate on the screen how you found the workshop today, this will really help us to improve the Digital Art School as we continue to grow and develop our new terms. So that should be appearing on your screens now. So we're going to let that run through to the end of the workshop so that everyone has a chance to answer that. Richard, if we could please have our slideshow. Fantastic. Thanks so much, Richard. So if you're still here with us, I'd like to share the story of hospital rooms and how the workshop today has come about. So we are a London-based arts and mental health charity, and we transform inpatient mental health units with extraordinary art. We began the digital art school in response to COVID-19 lockdowns when our in-person work in mental health units was put on hold. It's been hugely important for us to build a community where we can join together globally and feel part of something special, hopefully impacting our creative well-being in a positive way. You can find the library of our past projects and all of the previous Digital Art School workshops on our YouTube channel, where you'll find a variety of original and imaginative workshops with world-class artists. From pattern making to painting with sound, fashion illustration, and so many more, please do have a look and subscribe to our channel. We also have a Digital Art School newsletter, which keeps you informed of upcoming workshops, the materials you'll need for them, along with any relevant downloads and links to last week's video, if you missed it or you'd like a recap. If you sign up to our newsletter, that's also the very first place you'll be notified of when our application forms open for the 50 free boxes of materials that we give away each term. You can sign up for that newsletter at hospital-rooms.com. We love when you share your artworks with us by uploading to our online gallery. You can do so anonymously, or you can let us know your name and where you are. If you've created a tracing today, either joining us live or watching this back on demand, we'd really love to see them. We'll be back next Thursday at 2 p.m. for a monoprinting workshop with Sikalela Owen, which is kindly supported by our friends at Anthropology. From myself and everyone on the Hospital Rooms team, thank you all so much for joining us today. Another huge thank you to our excellent artist, Jackson Rees, for leading today's brilliant workshop. We'll see you all again on Thursday, the 7th of October at 2 p.m. Thank you so much, everyone.